Good morning, Garland Nixon here. It's Wednesday morning, and you've probably noticed by now that that's not Scott Ritter sitting beside me. It's the one and only Gerald Celente. Plenty to talk about. Let's chat. Good morning, Garland here. And as I said earlier, Scott Ritter is gone for the month. He's normally Wednesday mornings. He's on, and I've got some great guests available. Scott's actually in Russia doing a book tour and doing a goodwill tour, trying to do good things and unite people. Scott, he's a great guy. So we have with us now Gerald Celente. He is the publisher at Trends Journal. You can find that at Trends Journal. That's TRENDS, trendsjournal.com. And he's a Trends Journal is what it says it is. Gerald has been, for years, been around predicting the things that are going to happen, looking at the trends. Gerald, welcome to my humble YouTube channel.
Oh, thanks for having me, Garland. And Scott Ritter is one great guy. I really admire him for how he stands up and fights for freedom and the American way that we've lost.
Yes, a couple of things. Let's start here. When I first heard I'd heard of you certainly before. You're a famous guy, but when I first heard you speak, when I first found out what you were about, was at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. I was one of the speakers. You were one of the speakers, and I thought that was really a good thing to bring people who didn't necessarily agree on a lot of things that could come together and say, we agree on some fundamental principles. What are your thoughts on that Rage Against the War Machine rally?
I thought they did an excellent job. And like you said, I could care, if you're what you believe in other issues. This was about peace and freedom. I mean, this is about the American way and honoring the founding fathers. Like George Washington, a real man, the guy that fought across the Delaware, not these little boys that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. They had big mouths, and start wars like the Clintons and the Bushes, little Georgie Bush, and the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, Barack Obama. Not like them. A real man, his farewell address, George Washington, warns the American people no foreign entanglements, particularly in Europe, because basically this crap has been going on for centuries and it's not our interest and we're not going to fix it. We have our country and that's our major concern. So that's what the war against the Rage Against the War Machine is about. And when you think about the war machine, how about another man, 5-star general, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, 2-term President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, warning the American people in his farewell address that the military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, the sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. And to hell with Eisenhower. To hell with Washington. I'm some little clown. I'm a little draft dodger like Joe Biden. Loved every war, supported every one of them. Oh, how about that other arrogant little boy up there, Blumenthal out of Connecticut? Oh, I was a veteran in Vietnam. You little liar. You got 5 draft deferments. And because of your daddy and your connections, you got into the National Guard in Washington, D.C. during the Vietnam War. How about little Lindsey Graham? How could anybody listen to a little clown boy like him who loves war? One little jerk after another. So the Rage Against the War Machine was great. What they put on was terrific. My only sadness was how few people showed up.
Well, go ahead.
Considering
let me come. Yeah, let me comment on this though. What I found later was, and we live in a society where now there's a lot of things that are done online. I talked to a lot of people in the crowd. What I found was, while there weren't as many people as we would like, so many of the people there were alternative media. They had YouTube shows, they had podcasts, they were on Rockfin, they were on Rumble, they were on this and that. So the one good thing I'll say was there were so many people who were streaming it live on their podcast, who were talking about it afterwards. The echoes and repercussions went on. The mainstream media was unhappy and they attacked it. That told me it was good. So the good thing I think that came of that was so many people afterwards could discuss it, could push it, could put it on there. So I think there's that while the number of people weren't there, the number of views online and the way it expanded online was a positive thing.
Well, it was very positive. There's no question about it. But the Americans have to really get out and fight for freedom. I mean, look what's going on in Israel. The people taking to the streets month after month, week after week, day after day against the judicial reforms that Netanyahu is trying to push in. Let's take a trip to France. Month after month, week after week, day after day, people taking to the streets in protests of Macron's changing the retirement age. Now we're talking countries, a couple of million people, 80 million people in France? We got 332 million people in America. I hold rallies, by the way. I have peace and freedom rallies. Matter of fact, Scott Ritter spoke at the one last year. I have 3 of the most historic buildings in America. I'm in Kingston, New York. It's the only corner in America with pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings on each corner. And I own 3 of them. The other one's a museum. And I have rallies here. I'm having another one on May 27th. It's starting at 1 p.m. at John and Crown Street in Kingston. I have Gary Knoll, Frank Morano, Judge Napolitano was going to make it, and as something happened, he can't make it. I have other speakers as well. So we're doing everything we can to fight, but the people have to take to the streets. Once upon a time, there was a thing called the Berlin Wall. What brought the Berlin Wall down? People went, they didn't leave. More people came, they didn't leave. More people came, they didn't leave. More people came, they didn't leave. Day after day after day after day. And that's what we have to do. The people have to be in charge of this government, not the little clowns, the politicians, the public servants that are running and ruining our lives.
Since you do a lot of predictions, I want to ask you about the upcoming, trends. I'm not going to say predictions like, you're, like you've got a crystal ball or something. Yeah. But let me ask you this. 2024 election cycle's coming up. A couple of things. I remember in, I believe it was 2020, Tulsi Gabbard ran. I was a big Tulsi Gabbard fan. I went to Hawaii the day she, the day she announced. I jumped on a plane. I wanted to be there, right? I'm like, here's somebody who's talking about let's end this crazy war stuff. Okay, great. I'm all for that. The machine took her apart. That was election interference. They pointed everything at her. Okay, we got Trump. We've got RFK Jr. running. I wouldn't surprise me if Tulsi Gabbard or somebody else gets in. So there's going to be some people running. You may agree with some of them or all of them or part of them or whatever, but people running who have a different narrative than the neocon mainstream media, the neocon mainstream. The neocon mainstream is preparing for election interference in a big way. Your thoughts on the upcoming election cycle, the people that are running, stuff like that?
You go back to December 19th, I was saying that the best candidate to run for president would be RFK Jr. And I've been on a number of broadcasts going, as a matter of fact, one with on January 4th with Daniela Cambone. They got 1.6 million views. I was saying RFK Jr. And of course, he announced officially in the middle of April that he was going to run. And to me, he is the best possibility to win, particularly because he's running on the Democratic ticket. And when you look at the polls, what is it? Some 70% of the Democrats don't want Biden to run anymore? I mean, you look at the poll numbers, and the people are tired of a Biden Trump. They've had enough. Most of the people have had enough of it. They want a new way. And think about it. Your uncle, the president of the United States, was assassinated. Your father was assassinated. You think you got a different heart than a lot of other people? You think you're coming from a different place? And then the people say, I don't like him because, he's this climate change guy. But read what he just said about climate change, that this stuff is being pushed by Bill Gates and the others. And this isn't what he stands for. But he's against the wars. I launched Occupy Peace. And Occupy Peace, Kennedy is basically repeating exactly what we say what the foundation is. Close the bases overseas. Bring home the troops and secure the homeland. What are we doing in 800 bases in some 70 countries while this country is going down the crapper? So, and then look what else he did. He was against the COVID war. The damage that the COVID war has done is incalculable. And by the way, excuse me, people are calling it a pandemic. It was not a pandemic. Use the numbers. Over 6 million people allegedly died of COVID around the world out of what? 8 billion people, which means that 99.91% of the people are still alive, and you're calling it a pandemic? The damage that this thing has done is incalculable. Economic, mental, physical. Look at the crime rates. Look at the suicide rates. Look at the office occupancy rates. Look at all the businesses that depended on commuters that are going out of business. The banking crisis has just begun. The office occupancy rate in the United States, according to Castle Systems, that's with a K, anybody could look it up, 49.6% occupancy rate. You mean half the buildings are empty? And all the businesses that depended on commuters? Oh, and I don't want 10 floors anymore. Give me 2. I don't need any of this. Everybody's working at home. How are you going to pay your loans? You're not. And interest rates are going up. And you have these floating loans and they're short. And now you got to pay more on them. The damage that this thing has done, suicide rates, the drug obesity, on and on and on. But anyway, Kennedy was against this. So I believe Kennedy has a great shot. And if they don't kill him.
Well, you make a good point. And one of the things, what's interesting to also when you talk about COVID is the discussion about, the number of people died, the health issues, who got sick and who didn't. Here's the thing about it. They never talk about collateral damage. I have a family member that I was talking to recently who who now works from home. And what we were discussing is this person hasn't really gained a lot of weight. They gained a little weight, but what the discussion was, I used to get up every morning. I had to go outside and start my car. I had to drive to the work. I had to walk up and down stairs. I had to move around. I was going back and forth across. I was getting exercise. And now I do my job in my pajamas half the day. I finally take a shower at lunch. Then I lay around all day on the computer. I don't get the exercise. I got to start riding a bicycle and this and that. But that's like 1 out of every probably million people. The health crisis of the people who get no exercise, who lay around all the time, and let me add this, mentally, we're not associating and socializing with people. We're locked in all day looking at it. And let me add this. How do people meet? I think about when I was like a young guy, when I was a young man at work, right? One of the things that was great about work, I met girls. People are not meeting a mate to get married and have kids. I mean, it's just total disruption of our society. Go ahead.
No, you're 100% right. And everything. I mean, look at, I just took a sister out from a nursing home. And every time I go visit her, she's dead. And she's 84 years old. Great sister. And anyway, now I brought her up here in December. Now, remember, she hasn't seen people outside a nursing home in 12 years. I have her sitting out in front of my building out here. and she has 2 strokes because she's out of it. She watches people walk by and she goes, oh, oh, oh. She never saw people look like this. Big people like this with purple, pink hair. The way the guys are dressed. She's out of her mind. She can't believe what people look like. And then I'm out the last week down the city in New York, and I'm at a fine restaurant. I go to the bathroom in the back. I came back and I said to my friends, I just counted 43 women in this restaurant. 43 women, all women alone, different tables, 2, 4, 8, 6 tables. Saturday night when I was a young guy was date night.
Yes.
So I'm just saying exactly what you're saying. Everything has changed. I'm telling you, I'm heartbroken when I see what's happened to this country. I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, born to be free. My blood is Italian. My heart's American. I'm born in 1946, right after the war. The energy of freedom, the energy for you to be who you want to be. My aunts, uncles, may all rest in peace, the fun that they used to have, the family dinners all the time, all gone.
You mentioned something that I know you've been covering a lot, and that is the banking crisis, any number of things involved to it, not the least of which being, this is what we're not talking about, and you brought it up. I wanted to get to it. Office occupancy, commercial real estate. The discussion that we're having now about this stuff that's going on is one thing. That to me is a tidal wave that when it hits, a whole lot of stuff's going to go under. How do these companies pay their note on their building when they have nobody in, and not just office? I go by strip malls. Occupancy. And there's a mall near me that was built, beautiful mall, millions and millions and millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. It is a ghost town now. So they basically locking everybody in the house, shutting everybody down, stopping everybody from going to work there is an economic, I think, it's like a monster outside the door economically that's waiting to take us out, and our leaders aren't discussing about it. What effect is this going to have on economics and the banking crisis?
Well, one of you said our leaders.
Well, rulers. They're rulers. They're not leaders.
Yeah. What a joke. Name the names of the clowns. Who's your favorite clown? Mitch McConnell? No, I like Chucky Schumer. No. Give me arrogant Gavin Newsom. How about Witless Whitmer? Oh, you got that guy down in Maryland. What was his name? Hogan? Look, one little jerk after another. Our leaders. Look at the clown show. Hey, I'm Andy Cuomo. I'm renaming the Tappan Zee Bridge after my daddy, the Mario Cuomo Bridge. Everybody close down your business. I'll make up any crap that I want. Stand 6 feet apart. The wind blows exactly in straight lines. It's 6 feet. Doesn't go like that. Oh, and when you walk into a restaurant, you put on that mask. But when you sit down, you can take it off and eat because COVID knows that you're eating and it doesn't go at table length. Now you do what I tell you to do. The damage, as I said, of this COVID war is incalculable. It has destroyed the planet. In Italy, over 100,000 businesses are out of business. All over the world, it has destroyed the lives and livelihoods of billions of people. Now, going back to the commercial sector, as I said, we were warning about this 3 years ago. We finally made it one of our top trends for 2023. We said now they're going to officially recognize it. So what happened last week? Oh, it was big news. That guy Munger from Berkshire Hathaway, the Warren Buffett partner, warning about commercial real estate. Oh, no kidding. Wow, blow me away. Never would have known it. Again, how are they going to pay? You made it clear. How are you going to pay your debt on your loan? Oh, and by the way, it was overbuilt before this. And you mentioned about the malls. One of our things was Paul on the mall. It's gone. Strip malls. Go. Oh, Let's put it together again. Who were the first ones to call the lockdown? The geeks. That guy Dorsey, that little freaky clown with Twitter. He was supposed to, again, we wrote about it in the Trends Journal as it was happening. He was supposed to go to Africa, South Africa. You know, I'm canceling my trip. This is in February of 2020. And everybody, don't go to work. We don't want to spread the virus. Work from home. And then that Zuckerberg, one after another, all closed down. All the geeks closed down. Work at home. Oh, and their stocks skyrocketed. Yeah. As everybody's working from home, buying stuff from home, can't go out. Oh, and close down those swings at the park. Don't let your kids go on them. Yeah, everybody at home, the geek business flourished. Now, take a look at San Francisco. You have a 30% vacancy rate. Vacancy, not occupancy. Occupancy rates is only about 43%. The office vacancy rate is 30%. LA, 30%. Go to San Francisco. You like all the homeless people? You want to buy any fentanyl? It's easy to get. It's everywhere. Look what they've done. So the damage is incalculable, and it's only going to get worse. You're going to see a banking crisis, an socioeconomic crisis, the likes we've never seen before, but don't worry about it. Because when all else fails, they take you to war. Go back to the dot-com bust. What followed it? Oh, the war on terror. We're going to get that guy, Osama bin Laden, dead or alive. 88% of the people swallowed the crap coming out of a little moron, daddy's boy, George W. Bush's mouth to go into Afghanistan. And now, what's the news? Oh, they sent drones in to hit the Kremlin, try to assassinate Putin, ramping up the war. Oh, that's not big news. Imagine if a drone landed in Washington, D.C., near the White House. Oh, my God! Oh, my God! They're going to take us to war. Again, going back to where we began, the military-industrial complex that the President Dwight D. Eisenhower, George Washington warned us about. Well, Eisenhower said there was no military-industrial complex in the wars that he fought before, World War I and the other wars. This is new. And, who's our Secretary of Defense? Lloyd Austin. Oh, what was his job? Oh, you mean the guy that was in Iraq murdering people, that Lloyd Austin general? Oh, what was his last job? Sitting on the board of directors of Raytheon, the second largest defense contractor in the United States. Wait a minute. The guy that's the second largest defense contractor in the United States sat on that board of directors is now our Secretary of Defense? That's right, Celente. That's who runs the country. Shut your mouth or we'll kill you.
Tucker Carlson, a guy, I've been on Tucker Carlson's show several times back when I was with Fox. And Tucker Carlson had JFK on. Tucker Carlson is a guy who, when the Biden team went after the African People's Socialist Party, Tucker Carlson said, oh, that's free speech. I disagree with that. Tucker Carlson would take positions that were principled, that had to do with the Constitution, that had to do with, certainly I didn't agree. I'm a lefty. I didn't agree with everything that he said. I met him. I went on his show. I liked Tucker Carlson because he was a very nice person. You know what I mean? When I went on his show, he's one of the nicest people I met, like the guy. And when I would watch his show, here I am, a lefty. I could watch his show. It's principled. He stood for things. He said what he believed in. He said things that weren't left and right. They were about wrong and right. And what happens to him, from what we understand now, we're hearing that apparently Murdoch or whoever, these billionaires, they're talking to Zelensky, whatever the case may be. Tucker Carlson, the last guy on TV that would say things that were not allowed by the neocons, out the door he goes. Your thoughts on Tucker Carlson?
I was on Tucker Carlson, by the way, back when he was on MSNBC. I'll tell you a quick funny story. Like I'm waiting in the green room, and this person's on before me. This is when they was in Secaucus, New Jersey, when they were down there. And she leaves, and I said to her, I said to him, who was that? I said, she was insufferable. This is going back into about 2007, 2006, around that time. He goes, oh, her name is Rachel Maddow, and they're grooming her. Anyway, going back to Tucker Carlson, think about it. One guy is not repeating the mainstream narrative, and he's out. Like him, hate him, agree, disagree, not the issue. One person that is not repeating the narrative of 99.9999999% of the so-called media, and you're out. This is America, the country that brings freedom and democracy to other countries. Again, you could thank that slime ball, murderous little clown that every time he got caught with his pants down, bombs away over Baghdad, Bill Clinton, for destroying the media with his Federal Communications Act of 1996, when he allowed the bigs to take over everything. Before that, there were regulations where they couldn't own everything. And now what do you have? 5 companies that control over 92% of the media. And it's like that everywhere. They did away with the Robinson-Patman Act, Sherman Antitrust Act, Clayton Antitrust Act, and of course, Clinton's Glass-Steagall Act that prevented the bigs from owning everything. When I was a young guy, there were grocery stores, hardware stores, stationery stores, drug stores. Now they're all chains. Every time I go into a Home Depot or something, my heart breaks when I see the people working there knowing that they have no future. And that's what's happened to America. They've all sold us out. The leaders, the little lowlives. Look what's going on with the elections coming up. Again, write about in the Trends Journal. CNBC, billionaires donating to Biden. Oh, great. You don't have any money. You can't run for office. Look at the clown show that we just had, the midterm elections. That little jerk over there in Austin, Texas, the clown over there in Georgia, Abrams and Beto O'Rourke in Texas. Both ran for governor. Both lost and spent $100 million. $100 million. Hey, this is America, land of the free. What do you think they get this money for? Morons and imbeciles call it campaign contributions. Adults call it bribes and payoffs. And we have a crime syndicate that's a government. You say you're a lefty. I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in any of it. I believe in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the freedom of the people. And by the way, my career began when I used to run major political campaigns in Westchester County in the 1970s. Mayor Yonkers, Angelo Martinelli became the longest running mayor. I worked on Carl Vigari's campaign, one after another, district attorney. I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate at 26 years old. I was on the other side. I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't on the other side. I designed and instructed America's first course in American politics and campaign technology, how to run political campaigns. I taught it at St. John's University. I've been on the other side. I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement in the 1970s. At 28 years old, I'm staying at the Willard Hotel and putting my meetings on to Hay Adams. I started to grow up in my 30s, and that's why I became a different person. But I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't on the other side. And I know the other side. And the other side are the little arrogant clowns and morons and narcissistic freaks that wanted to be class president or head of the student council when I was in high school and college. And those are the jerks that are running and ruining our lives now.
You know, I did want you to get your thought on something. I have, I'm not a big crypto guy, but I have some investments in crypto. And someone was asking me about crypto the other day, and they're like, well, what do it's a fraud. I said, wait a minute. I said, when I buy Bitcoin and Ethereum or whatever, I already know that the value of that is that somebody else wants it, there's no intrinsic, there's no bricks and mortar behind it, that the value of that is that somebody else will pay more or less for it. I understand that. fine, great, I'm willing. I said, but now if you buy normal stocks, you think you're buying a stock that's based on what they sell or what they make. And now half the time, there's not even a company behind the stock that has enough equity in it that could survive. It's all about the stock. So at least crypto is honest enough that I know what it is I'm getting myself into and I'm investing. Your thoughts on crypto and where the market is now?
The gamble is, it's a gamble. And I have Bitcoin and I've been buying Bitcoin for a long time. It's a gamble. To me, gold is number one. And I don't give financial advice. I want to make that clear. In the Trends Journal, what we do, we give the story the way it's being reported. And then we give our trends analysis and trend forecast. So, we're not skewing anything. We're saying this is the way we see it. This is where we see it going. So let's go back. Again, I definitely play the crypto game. But to me, gold is number one because gold is the number one safe haven asset. And what's going to happen is later today, the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates 25 basis points, according to the guests on the street. That's going to bring down gold prices. But it may not, because if they come out and say this looks like it's going to, they're not going to say it exactly like this. But if they hint that this is the last rate hike, this is the beginning of the death of the dollar. The dollar is only strong because interest rates are so high. The dollar's down 8% from its high back in September. The world, much of the world, is disgusted with the United States' geopolitical and socioeconomic hegemony. They've had enough. They've had enough. You're looking at Brazil going to China and saying, we've had the Lula, the president of Brazil, saying, every night I say to myself, why do we have to trade in dollars? You're looking at now trade between Saudi Arabia and China, China buying oil from Saudi Arabia. No, we'll pay in yuan. We're not going to pay in dollars. The BRICS talking about trading. So when the dollar goes down, gold prices are going to skyrocket. They're only low now because the dollar is high and you have to buy gold. It's dollar based. So if your currency is weak, it's costing you more to buy gold. Oh, and then you look at the numbers. The central banks last year had the biggest year ever in buying gold because they know how bad it is. And now, where are the markets going to go? Again, we look at the data. Following the last 40 midterm elections, and we just had one, right? The S&P 500 has gone up 16.3%. And it's gone up again. So if they hint that this is the end of the rate hikes, you're going to see the market continue to bounce up because it's a rigged game. That's the way we see it. And now you have to also understand the economy is going down. The numbers are there. Your purchasing manufacturing index is going down. Retail, people buying less retail items. Yeah, they're buying more service sector, but less retail. The higher interest rates go, the deeper the economy sinks. So it takes time. And the time is now where the economy is going to go down. So this might be the last Fed interest rate hike. The other important thing to understand is that before the elections, the presidential election, they always lower interest rates. They do it all the time to keep the person in power. So they're going to lower interest rates. So again, the lower the interest rates go, the cheaper the dollar goes, the higher inflation goes, and the higher gold prices go. So we're calling it, it's not stagflation. It won't be a stagnant. It'll be a declining economy. We're calling it dragflation. The economy is going to drag down and inflation is still going to be high. Oh, yeah, prices have gone down. What's the price of a house? What, $390,000?
Yeah, people are the average. You know what's interesting, Gerald? And that is, I remember when, I retired law enforcement. I was a police officer for many years. And then when I retired, I was a law enforcement official. I worked for the governor's office. When I got out of the academy, way back when, $14,000-15,000 a year. But guess what? I was a young man, right? Again, we talked about it. I was a young man. I'm going out. I want to meet the girls. I want to have fun, party, drink beer, the things you did back then, right? I went out and bought a sports car. Brand new, right off the lot. I could afford it on a regular old police officer salary right now. A guy just coming out of the academy. I could afford to buy a brand new, it was a 1984 Shelby Charger. And it was pretty, man. And it was, okay. Man, first of all, there's no cars on the lots. Secondly, everything on a lot. Yeah, I want a basic, run around the corner car, $40,000, $45,000. Homes, people now, especially I'm in Maryland, very expensive area. You want to buy a home, $500,000, 650. People, the average working person can't buy a car, a new car, can't buy a home. They have priced people out of a reasonable lifestyle. Gerald.
Well, the average price of a car now is around almost $50,000, $49,500. And there is, again, as I said, the chains have taken over everything. They've killed all the mom and pop businesses. Your median household income is around $71,000. That's two people. With four people, it's two working people. Or one with a family. That's no money anymore. I mean, when I moved to Rhinebeck, and Rhinebeck is a place, by the way, they call it the Hamptons of the North. That's where Chelsea Clinton got married. It's north of New York City. When I moved there, and I bought 3 parcels, 10 acres, 16 acres, 8.5 acres, and the 8.5 acres had an old house on it, but I had to completely redo it. $28,000. $28,000. Look at the prices now. Like you said, everything's $500,000. Who could afford this stuff? So we become, I call it, we're nothing more now than plantation workers of Slavelandia. This is much better than the plantation system because back then you had to house them and feed them.
Right.
Now you don't have to. Hey, get out of here. Here's some money. Go back. Get out of here. Come back to work in there. Get out of here. Go on. Get out. Come back tomorrow morning. It's worse than the plantation system in so many different ways because the bigs have taken over everything. Look at the numbers that just come out about how the billionaires got here. According to Oxfam, since the COVID war began, the billionaires got $27 trillion richer. $27 trillion richer.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the situation is terrible. Let me ask you this. Europe. One of the things that has happened, I used to like to travel to Europe and London. I have friends in London. I'd go there and, go to I forgot there was this bar I used to go to it was where Jimi Hendrix went and the Rolling Stones and all. I'd go in the bar and, Europe was great. It's gone to hell. They followed Biden and these people right down the path to hell. If you look at it now, the pubs are closing. When I went to Europe, right? You go there, when I go to London, if there's a soccer game, man, they're in the pubs early, turning up a pint, getting off. They've got their soccer jerseys on. Those people were able to enjoy life and have a fun time. And now they got this war started. They're taking all of their money for that. It's a sad state of affairs. They have no independence whatsoever. The Olaf Schultzes and these other clowns over there are doing anything they're told by these neocons. Your thoughts on Europe?
It's like you said, it's finished. You're talking about the UK. What do they have? The inflation rate's been running over 10%. And again, brought to you by the little clowns running the show. Look at the jerk that was before the other jerk that's there now, Boris Johnson. You couldn't get the best cartoonist couldn't come up with a better looking clown than that jerk. Look what they did. Oh, and then all of these stupid politicians, you mentioned Schultz and the others, following Biden by putting sanctions on Russia. And Biden saying, quote, we're going to punish Putin. No, you're not. You're punishing the people. Look at the energy prices throughout Europe when it's done, what the damage that it's done. And again, all they do, look at, again, we wrote about it in this week's Trends Journal about how big the Europeans are spending, putting more money into their military industrial complex as the people are going broke. Like in the United States, where we send over $125 billion to Ukraine since the war began, as our infrastructure is rotting in front of us. People, what's over 70% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck? What a joke. I was up in Albany last Saturday. Albany is the capital of New York State, right? The capital. The potholes in Albany on the highways, not only the side roads, I couldn't believe it. I almost blew up my front end. And it's all over like that. Boom, 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 boom. Running through it. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, look at how you travel in Europe. Look at the rail system in the United States. Hey, how about taking a subway in New York? It's a night in Calcutta. The country's going down in front of our eyes, and we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars and a defense budget, when you put this so-called intelligence into it, of over $1 trillion each year as our country's rotting in front of us. Could you imagine if this money was put into building the economy? Peace is more profitable than war.
And the other thing is that I'd like to get you to comment on is this. We say, okay, we're sending it to you, sending this money to Ukraine, right? Ukraine. Now, when you look at it, they've got these generals in Ukraine and these people riding around in Mercedes-Benz and Rolls Royces that they're buying on our money. We find out that the CIA chief went to talk to Zelensky because Zelensky pilfered $400 million. And all they had to say was, you took more than your share.
Yep.
You got the whole Hunter Biden situation. And might I add one other thing? We find out they're sending this money to Zelensky and his crew. They're investing in FTX, a friggin' crypto scam, and then the money is finding its way right back into the Democratic Party here. Your thoughts on all of the scam?
As I said, it's a crime syndicate. It's a crime syndicate that we call a government. Look what just happened with the banking thing over there with JP Morgan Chase. And the Federal Reserve gave $50 billion to buy out First Republic. They gave them all this dough. Oh, JP Morgan Chase, convicted of 5 felonies. Convicted. What was the last felony? Oh, rigging the precious metals market that they had to pay $900 million fine for? Hey, I'm Jamie Dimon. Take it easy. Oh, but in America, it's prosecution to the fullest for we the people and a slap on the wrist for the member of the club. Again, it's a crime scene. Hey, I'm too big to fail. You're just a piece of crap. I mean, look what's going on. I mean, it's all over in front of everybody's eyes. But again, as I'm saying, there's no fight in this country. There's no fight. You're a police guy. You're a fighter. You know, I'm a little guy that grew up in the Bronx. I come home crying one time. My father said, "What are you crying about?" Because you got beat up. So you don't come home crying. You learn how to fight. And I used to teach close combat. I had my own school for many years. I'm a fighter. I attack the attacker.
Right.
And Americans don't fight anymore. Do what you're told. Obey your governor. Obey your mayor. Obey any little clown that tells you what to do. You're still in the 3rd grade. That's the mentality of America.
Yeah, the mentality is we only got a couple minutes left, I see, but I got to ask you this: your thoughts on? We got CNN, we got MSNBC, Fox, the New York Times, the state of the U.S. And I use this word loosely. Media. Today is World Press Freedom Day. Julian Assange is in prison, but it's World Press Freedom Day. Yeah. Juan Guaido is going to speak for Juan Guaido is speaking for World Press Freedom Day.
Again, it's there's no media left. Journalism's dead. Look what they did to Seymour Hersh coming out against the Nord Stream pipeline, the guy that talked about the My Lai massacres in Vietnam and on and on and on. Great track record, how they blacklisted them. By the way, I got blacklisted too. I used to be on Oprah. I used to be on the Today Show. I used to be on Fox. I used to be on everybody, Good Morning America, everybody. I came out and said the United States would lose the Afghan war and the Iraq war. Boop, get out of here. So when you're going back to the media, there is no journalism anymore. They've been bought out by the bigs. All the newspapers, they're tiny little things now. They don't have reporters. Remember, they used to have bureaus in all the capitals and in all the cities. They don't have those anymore. And again, look at how they're all going down. Vice is talking about going into bankruptcy. Vox, BuzzFeed, Business Insider just fired, 10% of its staff.
Newsweek was sold for $1. Did you know that? Newsweek went down, and the people that own it now, it was sold for $1. And if you ask me, they overpaid.
Yeah. And again, and that's why, by the way, our magazine does so well, is because we're the only magazine in the world that gives you in-depth trends analysis and trend forecasts of what's going on. All the other ones they're all doing is they're repeating the same stories and just using different language to repeat them. But there's no more journalism out there. The people don't have a clue what's going on. And they're all, again, you look at the cover of the Trends Journal this week, and there's two soldiers in a destroyed area in Ukraine, and they say, "Did you hear Tucker Carlson got fired?" Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's news, but what else is going on? And so that's all the media does. I heard about Johnny Depp for how long? The major story in there it is. The major story in CNN last was that this AOC isn't going to run against Gillibrand, the senator, U.S. senator in New York. Yeah, I said, how about Minnie Mouse isn't going to run against Clarabelle? I mean, this is news.
Right.
There is no news. It's dead. It's gone.
Yeah, it's pathetic. Gerald Celente, certainly appreciate you coming on. And people can go to Trends Journal, TRENDS, trendsjournal.com, correct, for more?
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot. Look forward to getting together with you again. Hopefully you can come on again sometime.
Okay. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you for all that you do.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. That was Gerald Celente. Go to trendsjournal.com. It was really great to have him on here. He's a great guy. I met him at the Rage Against the War Machine rally, and he's a funny guy, a great guy. And Trends Journal is great because they cover so much stuff, man. They cover a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff on there. A lot of stuff about, and they cover everything. They cover a lot of economic stuff, and then international. War and peace, you name it, they're all over it, as you can see. Gerald's a great guy, and I really appreciate him. I have a lot of respect for him and his principles. All right, well, I'm about to get out of here, but first we got to look and see if we got any super chats. I certainly want to. A lot of people super chats. Wow, it's going to take a while. Okay, we're at the top. Let's try to get through as many as we can. Sparky, they gave a cold name. They gave a cold name and stopped the world. Thanks a lot, Sparky. I would see it like this. In my opinion, it's kind of like I would call it a super flu, in that it is a respiratory virus, and depending upon with the flu, and I'm not saying one is the same with the flu. If you certain people, depending on the weakness of your constitution, maybe you're older, you're young, or whatever, the flu would kill certain people. COVID was something, it was a respiratory virus like the flu, and it was stronger, and it would kill a greater, if your constitution was weak, and if you weren't, strong enough, yes, just like the flu could kill a certain group, I think this was stronger than the flu, and it could kill maybe a larger group. But couple that with what happened, and that is that they wouldn't allow various treatments that they discounted. Oh, we can't try this treatment or that treatment. They went straight to these respirators. 88 to 89% of the people that go on the respirators died. So there was a lot of things that they did that compounded the problem. And then, of course, there was the issue with counting. Whereas, as Dr. Fauci has admitted himself, a number of what they did, and oftentimes, more often than not, is that they would count anyone who tested positive with COVID as a COVID death. And I think that skewed the numbers. Sparky says, great to see the great Garland Nixon interviewing the great Gerald Celente. Thanks a lot, Sparky. Let's keep going. And Sparky again, there's been a long war on small business. You are correct. That's a big thing about COVID. Took out a lot of small business. Fur Dog, the banking crisis has just begun. Absolutely. That's easy to see. And Gerald explained it very well when it comes to the issue of the businesses, people working from home and the commercial real estate. Why should socially challenged people run society, and mentally challenged in the instance of Joe Biden? Of course, Joe Biden ain't running nothing, as we all know. How about that? Zach Boyles, worse, an ex-Bernie bros take during COVID reliably predicts how loudly they blow off RFK Jr. They just run their mouths gaslighting that he's Bernie. Oh yeah, they're going to try everything they can, but I think it's going to be difficult with RFK Jr. for a number of reasons. It's going to be interesting watching that. And I'm going to report on it a lot. The worst news about the Bud Light controversy isn't the degeneracy so much as the revelation that all those independent brewers from our youth have been consolidated in Anheuser-Busch. Not to mention, did you know that the guy that was running it is former CIA? Did you know that? The guy running Anheuser-Busch is former CIA. That's enough to make me not want to drink that. Forget the who they're using as spokespeople. The guy running it's former CIA. I don't need to know the spokespeople. All I need to know is I'm drinking CIA beer, brewed in Langley. Sparky, even fish and chips seem on the way out in England. That's right. They can't afford the oil for it. People there will be eating, I don't know what the hell they're going to be eating. Crackers if they're lucky. England is going to be an impoverished nation. It's sad and pathetic what they've done to that place. You can't make this stuff up. That's right, Sparky. Repeal the Telecommunications Act of 1996. How about that? That's what 90% of the media is owned by 6 companies, and we don't even really know who owns them. But we find out when somebody like Tucker Carlson says the wrong thing. Super sticker, Sean Holland. Thanks a lot, Sean. Sparky again says colds often become pneumonia, become deadly in the elderly. That's exactly what I'm saying. That the colds and respiratory viruses can become deadly depending upon how strong your body is. In the same way, COVID, depending on the strength of your body, in the same way that the flu could kill you. I just think it was a much stronger flu. I know people who had the original strain. It was a stronger version of the flu, which meant let's just say if your body was 20% weak, the flu could kill you. And if your body was 15 or 10% weak, the COVID could kill you. The bottom line is the flu could kill you, COVID could kill you. I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying that it was the same principle, just a stronger version. And I don't think that's disputable. And for sure, this one was made by somebody. Okay. I'm not saying for sure, but I'm just saying that, there seems the United States government now argues things that would in the past get you thrown off of platforms. The United States government now argues that this was a lab leak. Now they're doing it to, the anti-China stuff. They'll say, oh, it came from Wuhan, but they leave out the fact that EcoHealth Alliance was funded by the US, and they were the ones that took all that stuff to Wuhan. So, you're blaming China. Fauci's fingerprints are all over the crime scene. How's that? Repeal all federal laws passed after 121.85. All of them? I don't know about all of them. I'd have to look. I'm sure there may be one here and there that I might not want repealed, but whatever the case. All right. Thanks a lot. But a lot of them. How about that? Thanks a lot, everybody. Oh, my gosh. I almost forgot to look at Rockfin. Anybody over there? We don't want to miss our Rockfin brethren. Scott Johnson, thank you very much for a tip. We will next go to anybody else? And Odie Huffman. Thanks a lot, Scott Johnson and Odie Huffman. Certainly appreciate that. All right, everybody. Last but not least, Garland Nixon is out of the show. But let me just remind everybody, make sure you go to Rockfin and become a member. It doesn't cost anything. Rockfin is a free speech platform that allows me to talk, and I don't have to worry about getting banned. I think everybody on YouTube should have an alternative platforms. Mine I chose is Rockfin. Go over there, become a member, no cost. And they don't have advertisements on Rockfin. If you want to, please, you can subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate anybody that subscribes to my channel and over on Rockfin. It's $14.99 a month, and they'll give you a couple months free if you sign up for a year. So it's about $12 and something a month. So if you can afford to be a subscriber on my channel on Rockfin, I would appreciate any subscribers to my channel. If you can't, just become a member. It doesn't cost anything. You'll get all my stuff. All right. Thanks a lot. I do one subscriber only show per week on Rockfin, so you will get the the one show a week that I do that is for subscribers only. Don't forget, you can do Cash App. Anything you can do to help contribute to the show is appreciated. Cash App, my information is there. Certainly, we got PayPal, etc., and Patreon, and Buy Me a Coffee. Buymeacoffee.com is great because now it can do the PayPal stuff. You can just do, they say buy me a coffee, $5 each. You can buy 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, however many coffees you want, but it's $5 each. You know, that's metaphorical coffees. But if you want now, just like Patreon, you can become a whatever you call it, sponsor, whatever. So you can say, I want to do $5 a month now and buy me a coffee. You can do just like you do Patreon. So everybody's going to buymeacoffee.com. Certainly appreciate that. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I am getting ready to head into DC. I'm out.